I don't think people really understand the ugly side of entrepreneurship. Like you see a lot of people on social media always trying to glorify what entrepreneurship is like, but they don't show you the downside. The downside, one of the main downsides is like it's hard as fuck, especially within the first couple of years. Just think about anything that you start doing for the first time. You don't do it really well. Like if you play sports, your first time trying to, hit a ball or put a ball in a hoop, it wasn't easy. Entrepreneurship is such a challenge because a lot of times you're doing something else at the same time as you starting your business. So if you have a job and you're trying to do a 5 to 9 and it's not going the way you want to and it's not exciting, it's not fun, and you already got a job that you don't like because if you did, you wouldn't be trying to start your own business. So then you got to deal with the nuances of trying to start a business after hours from you've had a long day of work. So not only do you have that, the 9 to 5 and then the 5 to 9, and you have a kid or kids or a wife that you got to try to balance that too. The shit is just hard. And in addition to that, you're not making any money. You're not making any money for the first 2 or 3 years. And sometimes you're spending money in the first couple of years trying to build a website, do marketing, buy business cards, or whatever the case is. So, like, one of the downsides from the jump is that you're gonna be spread so thin if you have a family and you got kids and you got a wife. Like, it's just gonna be so hard. So that it's so taxing in the beginning. So you see the people on social media are posting probably like 3 or 4 years in the game, right? And even then, they might not even be that many years in. And even then, the people that are posting are probably lying, especially if they're like the first couple years into their business. They're full of shit because everybody who starts a business, unless they got funded, even the people that got funded had to build an MVP, unless they had a successful exit before. But even those people that got funded had to go through this hard ass period to where they got to the level of where they can show some kind of proof of concept. And that's only like a small, 2% of people that get funded. So the rest of the other, 99% of the people, they're going to be struggling in the first couple of years. Even if you did stack up some money from a business that you had, I'm sorry, that a career that you had, and you had money saved up to start a business, you still got to figure out how to get your first customer, which is also hard. You still got to figure out so many different things so you get to the point of where you're generating revenue, and that's like a couple clients in. Like if you spent $300 or $400 or $1,000 to get a website and all that, your first product, maybe it's hopefully you selling as something that's like you know, $2,000 $3,000 so you can make that money back. But if you're selling a T-shirt or some shit like that, yeah, I mean, if you spent $2,000 $3,000 to get the inventory and all that, you selling 2 or 3 shirts ain't doing anything. So you can just see how the first couple years is what they don't tell you. Like you looking online and you see somebody driving a Lamborghini, or you see someone staying at some dope ass crib in the Maldives or something like that. Yeah, man, that was over time. If you look at a YouTube channel, like people look at YouTubers and be like, damn, this dude's killing it or he's living a life. Man, most of these YouTubers, it took years, man. Like some of these folks have had YouTube channels since 2015. Like these people with like 30 or 40 million subscribers. Maybe not as of late because there's a formula to it now. But before 2020 or 2021, those people were in the game for a long time. And so now, even if you start a channel, it's going to take you a while. It's going to take you a while. And you're not even making money. Like people think that these people that have these million subscribers are making a lot of money. They're not making a lot of money. I mean, because if it's pranks and shit like that, man, no. Like advertisers are trying to find a specific type of content where they're willing to pay $2 or $3 or something like that. But for the most part, people aren't really making money. So you can see someone that has a lot of million views, a million subscribers, but that doesn't mean they're making a lot of money. They can say that. But so there's all these misconceptions, and to get to 1 million subscribers in the first year, again, man, you got to be kicking out 2 or 3 videos a week or some kind of shorts. Like it's just not easy. So that's one of the other sides, the first dark side. But the second dark side is like it's really fucking lonely. Like you're going to spend so much time alone in the beginning years because you're trying to develop a product. You're basically trying to develop a business. And because of that, if you're trying to build a successful business, ones that don't stall out in the first 1 or 2 years, because most businesses fail within the first 2 or 3 years because it's so hard. You don't get the money right away, or you don't get the funding, or you just burn out. You just burn out, or you just simply get depressed and you can't continue. That's another downside of entrepreneurship. And I'm not saying that everyone is going to have these similar experiences or negative experiences. But for the most part, anyone that's building a business is going to go through what I'm saying. You might not get the depression, but you're going to go through most of the stuff that I just said. So, like being lonely, to sacrifice to build that product to where someone's willing to buy it, you just spend so much time alone if you don't have a co-partner, I mean, a co-founder or someone like that, or your spouse is not helping you with the business. Because if you're trying to become, take for instance your job. You didn't become great at your job as soon as you took the job. Like it took you a couple months or a couple years to be good at your job. It wasn't lonely because you had coworkers. But just think, if you didn't have coworkers and you was going to this building by yourself, you will be lonely. So that's kind of how it is when you have a business. You're a lot of time you're spending in the lab by yourself doing things on your own. So just understand that it's going to be lonely for the first couple years. And if you can't deal, loneliness, if you can't, deal with being alone, it's going to be very hard for you to be an entrepreneur. Even with a co-founder, that's bringing me to my next point. Having a co-founder, man, you better find a really good co-founder, because you're going to come to find out. I've had business partners before. I didn't have a co-founder when I started InvestFar, but I did have some people that I brought on early that I was friends with. And even with the people that I brought on early, even though they had different skill sets than me, I still end up doing most of the heavy lifting, if not all of it, simply because it was my idea. I went to people with my idea and they weren't as passionate about it as I was. So even when you have co-founders, someone is going to be doing more work than the other person. And it sucks. That's kind of one reason why I don't have partners anymore, because every single time I've had a partner, I have did most of the work. There hasn't been a time where I did more. I mean, where I did less. So it's like, why even have a partner in the first place? So you're gonna end up sharing. If, say for instance, you stay the course and you're the one putting in all the work, and you guys do get to the point of where you're gonna get funded. You did 90% of the work, and this person did 10%, but they got 50% of the company just like you do, and it's not cool. So then you're gonna bring, resentment and animosity against this person who could have been your friend before, and it's not gonna be good. So again, I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just giving you one of the dark sides of having a partner. And that's why you see a lot of co-founders end up splitting apart. Like look at Roberto Saverin, I think that's his name, and Mark Zuckerberg when they did Facebook. Mark was doing all the heavy lifting with all the coding off in San Francisco, Palo Alto, doing all of that. And then the other co-founder was off in New York, supposedly getting the funding or the financing to try to give Mark to get the business going. He ended up getting moved out because Mark Zuckerberg basically did everything. I don't know the full story, but that's just from what I saw from the movie Social Network. But just from my own experiences, that's kind of what I've dealt with, especially early on. I mean, I was doing everything. I was even bringing the money. And then, one of my partners took the money. Even lately, if I take a real estate deal, I came in on some joint ventures with some people, put up all the money up front, use my credit for one of the deals that we did in particular. And when it came time to refinance, I was like, let's use somebody else because I'm the one who did this. Let's use someone else to refinance this because I don't want to carry this debt anymore. I did the whole entire rehab, put up the funds for it, got the contractors. I basically ran the whole project and they're all getting 20 or 30%. And I'm just like, it wasn't worth it. And so when it came time to do the refinance, someone didn't want to do the refinance. So then that left me holding the bag again on a particular deal that I didn't want to do because I was already doing 2 or 3 other flips. So I just didn't want to do, the refinance and have to go through and do all the paperwork to do all of that, but I had to end up doing it anyway. So one of the hell of a downside as being an entrepreneur is like trying to find good partners. Like trying to do that is like pulling teeth. So for those people that can't do businesses or like to do things on their own, it's going to be really challenging for you to be an entrepreneur because, I mean, it's just really hard to find good people. And that leads me to my next point, trying to find good employees. I can't explain to you what it's like in the marketplace to try to find good help. Man, you'll run through. I think even with just finding doing flips, I'm just gonna stick here with flipping real quick. On one job, on one flipping job, you might end up going through 4 or 5 contractors. It's that crazy to find good contractors because a lot of times they being a contractor is not like it's a glorified like a everyone's not lining up to be a contractor. So these people tend to be, they drink a lot or they got other problems. They just really good at doing stuff around the house or being good handyman or working with their parents when their dad might have, did some kind of stuff around. So they just really good. They became good at, you know, construction work. So they're like, from my experience, drinking all the time. Some of them doing drugs. Some of them are ex-cons. So then you just run into like dealing with those type of people to try to get a gig done. And if you give them $10,000 up front, what you think gonna happen, man? They're gonna run off with the bag. And it don't matter what color they are. Like this has happened to me. Doesn't even matter the state. This happened to me in South Carolina. It's happened to me in Augusta. It's happened to me in Vegas. So, and this is $10,000, man. Like, and so they'll a lot of times they say, let me get that deposit of 10 grand, and then boom, they're gone, man. So then you gotta come up with that money again. So that's one of the downsides of being an entrepreneur in the flip game because this is really, really common. And so then eventually you learn to just you look, I'm gonna pay for materials and I might give you 2 or 3 thousand to get the job started, or maybe 4 grand. And then after you guys get through the first, part of it, I'll give you some money. But that's one of the downsides of being an entrepreneur in that aspect. But like we try to find loan officers all the time, or we try to find social media people, or we try to find marketing, we try to find customer service. Like you might put out 200 or 300 applications and you might get 2 or 3 of those that are really good. And the reason why I'm screaming like this and it might, came out in the microphone is because I'm going through this right now. Like we're in a hyper scaling phase and we're looking for loan officers and the attrition for them is so high, man. And they'll come in, their resume might look good. And that's the thing about resumes. Like people can pay someone $500 to doctor up their resume. And if you don't do the right questions to, in the interview, you'll get a dud. And so it costs a lot of money to hire someone. So then you end up hiring someone that sucks. And it's cheaper to just try to train that person up versus go through the process and spend the time to try to find a new person to replace that person. And that's why you should be slow to hire and quick to fire. But most of the time, people have a heart, and then you end up hiring folks that you don't want to fire because you might find out that they got kids or taking care of a family member. So now you're stuck with a bad hire. So that's one of the other downsides of being an entrepreneur is like trying to find top talent. And that's why you have these Googles and these Amazons that will pay somebody like $200,000 or $300,000 to come work there because they're going to get somebody top notch for sure. Because you're not going out here and getting that much from the average person is probably making, $60,000 to $70,000 a year nationwide, but in California it might be 110, New York, somewhere like that. So paying someone 200 or 300, you're getting the top tier talent, and then you got to provide all these, benefits like I think Google does cleaning and daycare and all this kind of stuff like that. Food every day. When I worked in Silicon Valley Bank, similar, like food every day, nice computers, nice stations, computer stations. Like it was just top notch. So like that's another downside of being an entrepreneur. And then you really don't get to spend money, man. Like the first couple of years, you're running so lean, you don't get to spend money on anything. And if you're in a relationship, that could put a strain on your relationship because they're like, man, I want to go do this, I want to go do that. And you're like, man, I can't afford to, or I could spend it, but it's not wise because I'm trying to get to a certain level. So it's like, I got to make this sacrifice and you got to hope that she want to make that sacrifice with you. So you could not be in relationships. It's almost easier to not be in a relationship if you don't have a supportive spouse because the nuances that come with being in a relationship and trying to build your business at the same time, both of them are your babies. And one of them you got to spend more time on, especially if you don't have a job and this is your only source of revenue. So you're going to end up, you know, choosing not to spend the money on her or go out every single night or go to Cancun or do all these lavish trips that she might be seeing online that she wants to do, you might not be able to do it. So even if she, might see something like you might have a couple houses that you have, that doesn't mean you're making a lot of money off the rental revenue. You might have houses and equity in those properties, but you got to do a refinance to pull that out. And it might not be advantageous depending on the time for you to do that. So the downside is like being in a relationship and being an entrepreneur is so hard because it requires so much focus and you need to be locked in. You don't really have the ability sometimes to, give them the attention that they want. And that can be problematic because girls like attention. And a lot of times they don't really understand what you're sacrificing or it doesn't really matter to them. But when you're the one putting it out of work and they're not a part of it, it's really hard for them to see what you're going through, what the struggle is. That's why it's really good for you to be able to get someone who is either an entrepreneur, have done it before, or is willing to work in the business with you. That's kind of what I see and what I think. That's one of the real dark downsides of like being an entrepreneur. And it's just lots and lots of years of just sacrifice and putting yourself on a back burner. Your health could take a toll. You don't really get to go and go to the gym or take care of yourself or because you're stressed out. A lot of things you run into, like with me, a lot of people will say, even look at the Brian Johnson, the person that's trying to live forever. Look at the difference between when he was trying to build Venmo and how he looks now. Completely different, like night and day. One, he had the time right now to be able to go on this journey that he's on because he has the money, but he's also not stressed to his eyeballs with trying to make sure he has the employees, making the clients happy, generating more revenue, keeping the business going, making sure his household is good. All of these different things come along with being an entrepreneur. So like, I think the things that people see online are the after effects of a person who's been grinding for 3 or 4 or 5 years. That's the misconception that's out there, that like people are seeing the glory, but they're not seeing the story. They're not seeing the late nights, or they're not seeing the 1-bedroom shack. Like they're just not seeing it. And but what's funny thing is, like, you obviously people know by now this is like a image that I use for the background. The reason why I chose this image is obviously you can see the name of the podcast right here that I have, but also this allows me to create more content on the video because I was only creating audio. This allows me to create more content for YouTube because I'm super busy. And a lot of times I don't have the time to be able to clean up my space the way I want to when I'm recording a video. You don't want people seeing your background all jacked up, people looking and stuff like that. So I chose to do a background like this because I can just stroll out of bed or, not care about whatever's going on and not keeping my house a certain way and record content. And then it's also branding. So people, obviously goes to the podcast. But you just have to use different tricks and tips to be able to stay the course with your business. And so I wanted to bring more content visually because that's where everything is going. And I'm trying to grow my business, and I was doing audio only, but everyone knows that everything is going more so with branding. So when you're branding anything, personal brand, business, again, you see the investing uncensored, that's just what you got to do. And this makes the most sense. So you try to figure out whatever you can to make your life more easy when you're an entrepreneur, because you're so pressed for time in the beginning, especially before you reach a certain point in revenue. Like, I'm 100 people at times. In the beginning, I was everybody. I was like 5 or 6 different people. Right now, I'm probably 3. But that's kind of what you have to do until you can get to the level of where you can hire someone to do some of what you're doing. So it's just like you have to be 10 people. So you really don't have time to go and hang out at somebody's house because right now you're a customer service rep. Or somebody wants to go to the gym at this time or go to dinner. You're like, nah, bro, because right now I'm coding. Or, again, if your girl wants to go out of town and go somewhere for a week, but that week you're the CFO. It's just crazy like that. And so again, that's one of the downsides of being an entrepreneur. Is like you got to be 10 different people, and it's so taxing on your body. It's so taxing on you mentally because you just got to be. These are all different personalities. Like being a customer service rep is a very different personality than being a coder or a CFO or someone who's more technical. You got to be friendly and service oriented and be like, oh, hey, I'm sorry. Like you got to be a different person when you're trying to be a customer service rep. So that's one of the things that I just don't think people understand is like you have to be so many people in the beginning and it's so hard to do. And so it just, again, it could lead you down some paths of like having anxiety or depression because like I don't know how many times I've gone to bed um and just thinking about who I gotta be in the morning when I wake up. And it's just so challenging because even when you're like, all right, I'm gonna take my CEO hat off on my CEO hat off right quick and chill, man, then you gotta, hop on and send a bunch of emails to people about this, or like you got to service a loan for somebody because they're about to go into foreclosure. So you got to do certain things like that. It's just crazy that you got to be so many different people when it comes to entrepreneurship in the beginning. Um, what are the other dark sides, man? Like that's just a couple that I can think of right now, which is a lot. Like this is a lot that people don't know. And that one of the major points is like you are not gonna get the money. You are not gonna get the money. You are going to have to bootstrap. And people hate hearing the term pull yourself out by your bootstraps. That's been an age old thing forever for a reason because you literally, doesn't matter what color you are going to have to pull yourself up by the bootstrap. You're not going to be able to go out there and get financing. You're just not going to be able to do it. So all these people that are on social media telling people, the narrative that this person, this minority, this, they should have been able to do that. Every single person across the board, doesn't matter what nationality they are, when they start a business, they're going to have a hard time, bootstrapping or not. And you can say whatever you want in the comments. If you don't have a fucking business and you've never done this shit, you can't say anything. So until you go out and do it, then you'll understand what I'm saying. But if you ask, if just a quick thing you could do, if you know 10 business owners, ask those 10 business owners, and if they're different colors, and if they're one's a woman, one's whatever gender, whatever the case is, ask them if they got funded. And if you got friends or business owners of different nationalities, ask all of them. And they're all going to tell you the same thing. And that'll let you know it doesn't matter what color you are, it's just going to be a hard time. So, one of the best things to do is just like mentally prepare yourself that this shit is going to be harder than I thought it was going to be. I will say this. I think I talked about this on one of my podcasts with a guest. I would probably not do this shit. I don't know if I would be an entrepreneur if I could do it all over again. But now that I'm in it, I don't know if I would do it again. Like I probably would just get a really, 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 really good job and just stay there. Or if I can go back even younger to maybe in my teens, probably would have just put more work in on trying to really, really get like really good at like basketball, like next level, practicing all day, every day to make sure there was no chance I wouldn't make it to the NBA because that's something that I really, really wanted to do. But as far as entrepreneurship and being a business owner, I think I would have preferred the grind of going to the gym every day because I love working out, putting up 100 shots. Because when I was training to go to the league, I trained so hard, 2 or 3 hours a day. I would go play basketball um, at lunch, again at night, then lift weights. Even when I was in high school, I lift weights in the morning. When I would get to school, I would lift weights at lunch, and then we had practice. That was just what I did. So I'm just saying, if I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't be an entrepreneur. I would probably do what I just said to try to get money to then become an investor or get into the stock market. That might be something else that I probably would have did. I probably would have focused more on being a trader, even though that's still a business. But it's less people involvement. And when you have a business, you're dealing with people so much. And I think as an entrepreneur, when you start getting to the point of where you have a lot of clients and you deal with so many people and employees, it just makes you see people so different because if you run across 10,000 people and out of the 10,000 people, only two of them were just really good employees or really good people or really good people that doing business, that shit's like defeating because you're like, damn, man, there's so many people out here that are just confused on what they think business is like or the American dream of what that is. Because you realize people don't have it. They don't have the work ethic. They don't have the mentality. They don't have the stomach for it. You have to have the stomach to be an entrepreneur because you're gonna be on the brink of losing your business so many times. I can't tell you how many times I felt like giving up. Even now, even with what I'm doing, as far as I've come, you still come into some times where you're like, man, fuck this. Sometimes it's just not worth it because of the sacrifices that you have to make. And then like, health wise, I went through some stuff with vertigo. If you listen to any of my previous episodes where I talk about it, that put me down, man. And that's probably because I'm spending way more time on the computer being 100 people versus before I was able to, go to the gym more often and be less on the computer. But as your business start to scale, you become more people because now you're making more money, you got more clients, and then you're hiring so many employees, but then your employees that you're hiring, you got to train them up and they're not doing a good a job as you could. So now you're doing that job and your job and trying to train this person. So it's almost like, why even have this person and just be that person and do what I'm doing? So that's what you kind of run into. And then the attrition of loan officers and bringing them more on and then trying to train them up effectively. And then they quit because natural attrition in anything is almost a year to 2 years with any kind of career. You know what I mean? Hopefully some people can stay the course and become experts by doing 5 years, but attrition is very high. And so like, obviously when you have a business, you have to deal with the churn. You have to deal with the employees. Like it's just not as easy as people think it is. And it's like one thing about it, I was talking to my mom about this. Life is easier when you have money because going through the problem, you're gonna go through it. You're gonna go through every challenge. Life has challenges. Doesn't matter what it is. But when you have money, it's a lot easier to go through those challenges. But just because you have money doesn't mean you're not gonna lose a family member or your kid might not be out here on the pole or on drugs or anything like that. So that's a separate challenge. But when you have money, it would allow you to be able to go on vacation after you get done dealing with that, or while you're dealing with it, you can just go to the gym or get a massage or go to therapy, or you have all the resources to be able to do that. But when you don't have money and you have these problems that are just general life problems, that's when it's like, man. So being an entrepreneur, you got this shit that you got to deal with in addition to all of this until you get to the level of where you have money. And then you're like, cool, let me just handle this. But just getting to that point is what's so hard. And then like also as an entrepreneur, you have to constantly be educating yourself. Every business owner, if you hear them talk, it's all about, I read this book. I did this. I'm always learning. You got to constantly be a learner. So what that means is you can't really be out here bullshitting anymore, watching stuff on Netflix all day long. You can't be wasting time like you were before. You got to be locked in. So in your car, listen to a podcast. You're on, I think it's Headway, trying to get book summaries, or you're reading a book, or you're reading an ebook, or you're doing certain things all the time. You're in a constant state of learning if you want to be a really good business owner, because it's always ever changing. So in order for you to stay ahead of the curve, you got to be following what's trending, depending on what your industry is. If not, you're going to get left behind. That's why AI is so huge, because the people that learn that are going to be the ones that make the most money. And like me, the reason why I'm doing more video content is because I was doing audio content before with Investing Uncensored, but everyone's shifting to being on video. So in order for me not to get left behind, I have to start doing more video content. So this is just all the things that you got to be paying attention at all times. You got to be following the economy because every single business is tied to the economy. You got to be following rates because if you're making money in your business at some point in time, then you can go out there and get a loan from Invest for Capital, or, you know what I mean? It'll just be easier for you to navigate getting financing from somewhere else because now you have revenue. So these are all the different things that you kind of just got to do when you're an entrepreneur and it's so hard, it's such a challenge. And this is kind of what I want people to understand. Like, these are the dark sides of becoming an entrepreneur. Yeah, all the glitz and glamour, if you could stay the course, yes, it will 1000% be worth it. But the problem is getting there. The problem is staying the course and dealing with, I don't know how many entrepreneurs that I've come across who are just like, man, they fucking suffer with depression. They suffer with anxiety. I was watching this YouTube of this particular author, the book Scaling Up, Varn Henrich. I can't think of the name of it. I don't know, but look up the book Scaling Up. He was saying he was going to therapy, and his therapist said, "You have PTSD. You get PTSD from running a business. I swear to God." And so when he said that, I was like, "Oh my God." He was right, because when you're a business owner, you don't get a lot of sleep, and your sleep quality is not that great. So then once you're done and maybe you sell that company, or and you're out of it, you've been doing it for so long, because normally you got to stay in the business at least 10 years before you can get out of it. And I mean dialed in for 10 years. You're just not going to be able to hop out, sell your business at 10 years and be like, all right, I'm gonna sleep 10 hours tonight. So you just deal with so much stuff. So like going through it, yeah, man, like even now when I get some good deals that go through, I don't want to do flips anymore. I'm at the point of where, like, when I do flips, I got to take a year off from doing the flip, because it's been so hard dealing with certain contractors and certain things. I'm like, fuck that. Like, I need a break. One of my friends in Arizona, same thing. Like, he did a flip. I helped him do. I funded for him, and I asked him how it went. He said, "Man, I'm trying to sell it right now." You know what I mean? Person signed 2 people on the lease. Come to find out, neighbor told me, because he was living in a different part of Arizona. Come to find out, 7 people were living in the house, and then they tore the house up. And then it's just a lot of nuances that came with that damn rental. So he did the flip, had to go through 3 or 4 contractors, finally got it rented out. The first person was in it. They ended up leaving. And then he had to get this family who had 2 people on the lease, but then 10 people ended up living there almost. So after that, he's like, I'm out, I'm selling it. And he's like, I'm good. So this is what I'm saying. Like, you just go through so many different things. So I don't think people are really prepared for like the level of commitment that you have to have and the mindset that you have to have when being an entrepreneur. And I'll give the example of one of my loan officers. I don't think he did a good job with selling the loan to the client. So then we end up getting to the closing table, and then the loan officer found out something. I'm sorry, the client found out something that he wasn't aware of, that the loan officer might not have given the information on. The deal fell through. The client was like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not doing it. F that." This guy was so defeated. This was his first loan. He just quit. This is the mentality of most people. Once they get their first obstacle, they just bow out. And this dude's been working with the company for months, getting deals here and there, submitting them here and there. Nothing was good enough. But then he finally got a deal that we got to the closing table. Dude bounced. This dude just gave up. You know how many deals that I've had that got to the closing table that fell through? I got one deal right now. One deal, same deal, fell through 2 times. No, 3 times. 3 times in a matter of like 6 or 7 months. So it's like, but I've gone through this so many times, so I had the stomach for it. The first time, it was like a gut punch, like, because you expect the money because you're trying to run your business and you don't have funding. So you're expecting certain funds to come in so you can keep it afloat, pay employees, and then when you don't get that deal, it's like, oh, what am I going to do now? And that's kind of what I'm saying is like the grind, man, the grind of being an entrepreneur. And you have people like, I like Alex Hermosi because he's one of those people that are straight authentic, keeping it real with you and telling you what entrepreneurship is like. And this is one of those things. So it's like, if you could choose to do anything, don't do this. I'm not trying to deter you from being an entrepreneur. I'm just trying to give you the things that come along with what you have to go through until you can get to the point of where you have that Lamborghini or you have that nice house. It's not going to be as fast as you think it is. It's going to take you longer than you think, unless you get a mentor, and then that person can shave off the 6 or 7 year learning curve that you got to go through. I talked about this previously. Like, if you want to save the ignorance tax, like Alex calls it, get a mentor. Because if I could shave, you know, if I could give you 10 years or 12 years or 15 years of my experience, wouldn't you want to take that? If I can get you to $2 million in 14 months, wouldn't you want to do that over 10 or 15 grand or 25 grand? Like, one of my friends came to me. He was like, I want to quit my job. I said, all right, give me 12 months. Within 13 months, with no money, he quit his job and I gave him $200,000 in the bank. And then he had like 4 rental properties. I cut his curve down. Like, had he done that by himself, he wouldn't have been able to do that. Because funny, after I got him to the point where he had $200,000, I was like, I'm out. You on your own. Even after I parted ways with him so he can do his own thing, because you gotta let him go. At some point in time, he had a hard time. He struggled for like a couple months, but then he eventually, after about 8 or 9 months on his own, he was able to get going. Right. He still had my network that I gave him that also helped him out and coached him up on particular things or particular deals. So he still had me to a certain degree. But just me guiding him that whole time, I got 30% of every deal and he got 70%. That made the most sense for him. So even afterwards, he just kept, maybe 8 or 9 months in, he just kept, hey man, come back, come back, come back, let's do more deals. But I was like, nah, I got to focus on something else. So I'm just saying, like, even with someone like that, you need someone to help you out. So I'm not telling you this just to, come to me or, go through my coaching program, or because I don't even have one yet. I'm working on it though. But I'm just saying, like, don't be afraid to go out there and spend the money to get a mentor to help you get through this, because it's a lot easier to get a mentor or a coach than to have a business partner. In my experience, having a business partner, like I just gave you guys some examples, that's for the birds. If you can just pay a coach to give you advice, that's what I would do. And you don't even got to give this person a percentage of the company, none of the revenue. Just get a coach that you got to pay 5 or 10 grand, or if you're on some kind of monthly subscription or whatever, get a coach like that, because it's like, hey, here go a problem. Something that you might tell your business partner to do for them to figure it out and they get it done. You could just say, hey, one of your one-on-one coaching sessions, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? If someone comes to me, I'm a Fiverr king. I built I built 2 businesses off using Fiverr and Upwork. I'm the outsourcing king. So if someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I got this particular thing, I already know what to do and who to tell them to go to, even if it's my crew, even if it's somebody that I've used on Fiverr or somebody that I used to use on Upwork. Boom, I know what to do. So I'm just saying, like, if you are new starting out, you might not be able to just know where to go to get a particular person or how to vet that person out, and you can end up spending more money. So like, I've been using Upwork since 2014 or 2012, actually 2012. Fully experienced with it. So I'm just saying, like, if you go to someone like me, I might just give you who the person I used before, or if I'm not using them, like, I might be like, yo, I use this person for 5 years, they're super good. I might even make the connection, because if it's me, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, what's up? Easy. So I'm just saying, like, that's the benefit of having a coach or a mentor. You get access to instant connections. It's almost like being in a business accelerator. That's kind of what happens in the tech world. Once you come up with a company, if your company is good enough, you get into an incubator or an accelerator where you have someone like myself or coaches that you meet up with once a month, and you just, brain dump, and then they tell you what to do, or they connect you with their network. That's the benefit of having a coach or a mentor or something like that, or being in an environment where you're in a mastermind or something like that. So spend the fucking money. Like, seriously, save yourself some time, make money faster by just doing that thing. But the next thing I'll say is, like, I think just, this is my last thing I'll say about the dark side of being an entrepreneur. It's like a drug, though. It is like, it's like being what do you call is it S&M? It's like being one of those people that likes pain. Because even after you get done doing that deal, and that deal goes south and it's horrible, and you make some money on it, After like 4 or 5 months or 6 or 7 months, you get the itch to do it again. That's why people that have businesses, if they are able to exit their business before like 60 or 65 or something like that, before they're older, they start another one. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the dark side of being an entrepreneur, because especially once you become a successful entrepreneur, you more than likely gonna start like 5 or 6 businesses. Look at Grant Cardone. Look at the people that are on. Look at any business owner. They probably got multiple businesses, man. That's one of the dark sides. Like, I'm telling you, all these bad things that happen with building out a fucking business. And here I'm telling you, I got multiple. And I do have multiple. I got like four. I said it before, they're in a similar industry, but I still have four. And it's like the challenges are still the same in all four of these, but I'm still like, let's go. And so you go through these up and down cycles. And when you don't have them, it's almost like you go looking for it. It's like your life is so dull and so boring when you don't have it. That's one of the hell of a downside of being an entrepreneur and getting to the point of where you are successful and you are making money, because you're going to be bored as shit when you're not doing that business. So you can be spending time with your girlfriend, your wife, your significant other, or going on trips with the family. You could be on vacation. You there for a week. Man, about the third or fourth day, you're going to be like, you probably bought your laptop, your computer. And I'm not going to lie, like sometimes you do want that break to be able to just get away from it. Once you get to the level of where you can get away from it, you're going to be thinking about it. So you're not even away from it. So it's a drug. Entrepreneurship is a drug that if you don't know how to, manage that drug, it could just really destroy your life. So entrepreneurship can destroy your life in many ways. One being, it could be addicting once you become successful at it, because then you get used to the isolation, you get used to being lonely, you get used to not being around people, and then you just get used to working all the time. And so that could be a challenge on your relationships. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but I've spoken to a lot of people and they just love to work. They just love to do their business. Alex Hermosi, I just reference these people because they're big YouTubers and people might know them. He said to himself, he just can't not work. And people thought something was wrong with him because he just loves to work. And I love working too. You know what I'm saying? But I do like leisure time here and there. But if I don't work, like weekends are hard for me, because if I don't work for like 2 days, by the time the end of Sunday comes, I'm like, ugh, I gotta hop on my computer and do something. Like I get that itch. Unless it's like the playoffs and there's a bunch of basketball games, then I'm locked in. But like other than that, if I'm on vacation or somewhere, man, I'm like, man, where's my computer? I gotta do something. I'm not sitting here saying I gotta work for 10 hours a day, but I gotta, at least hop on my computer for like 2 or 3 hours and get some kind of work done. It's just satisfying to me. Like I don't think there's any other satisfaction for me or some kind of business owner where they can check something off their list and that provided value and it helps someone out. So I think you do get addicted, especially if you have a service business, to helping someone and making someone feel good. So it's good and bad, but I think the downside is the addiction to helping people out once you've done it and you've become successful. And then the addiction to just wanting to create multiple businesses and keep doing it and going through the ups and downs of like entrepreneurship. So for me, that's the dark side. And it could not be a dark side to someone, but these are the things that I want you to think about when it comes to being an entrepreneur. Again, I don't think I would do it. I'm here now. And once I sell, you know, invest far, I'm going to start another one. But my my other business is going to be more like I'm going to be a naturopathic doctor. I'm going to say that now. Like a lot of people think they don't know me that well, or even they know me, I've never talked about doing this. So people think I just want to make money just to make money and live this certain lifestyle, which is not it. The goal for me is to sell my company and become a naturopathic doctor to make the connection with that and my master practitioner for NLP. I really want to like really change people's lives holistically. And so for me to get to that point of where I can just focus on that, I got to sell these companies that'll give me more time to do that. And then I'm not worried about revenue coming in. It's more so about getting clientele. And, you know, I'm probably going to have those people anyway, because once I can start my coaching program for what I'm doing right now, those people will probably transition into me doing more holistic things for them, because they're probably going to be entrepreneurs and they're going to be going through the shit I'm telling you about right now. So they're going to need my help anyway. So it's just going to be a cyclical thing, because that's just kind of how it goes. Like, if you got a coach and that coach goes into something else and you need that, why not? Because the relationship and the trust is already there. And you know they're going to just be doing things that are in your best interest. So that's my goal. But anyway, I just wanted to share the quick downsides of entrepreneurship that I think that people don't talk about. And you just see the glamorous side of people riding in Bentleys. And sometimes that shit is fake because they're trying to build their brand and they're doing marketing. So that's the downside too, is comparing yourself to another business owner, which is something that you shouldn't do. But anyway, I hope you found that helpful. And until next time.